Hi, everybody, and welcome to the SWC Spotlight webinar. This is the one that we wait for all semester because we get to see all the great things that our SWC faculty and students are doing in Canvas. I'm Tracy Shalin, the Distance Education Coordinator at Southwestern College, and I will be your host for today. But all the good stuff is coming from our two guests, Cynthia McGregor and Bill Marston. So we're going to be having a little bit of a theme today, which is you can't do that online. And our mission today is to prove that, yes, you can. So we're going to hear about online field trips and online group projects today. So I'm going to stop sharing and introduce Cynthia McGregor, our music instructor extraordinaire, who has really gone above and beyond to bring music to her students. Yay!
Hey, thank you, Tracy. So I teach Music 105. It's an introduction to music class. I've done it face-to-face and online, and part of the core requirement is to actually attend concerts. So when you have a classroom situation, the typical face-to-face one, a lot of times you can have these discussions. Do you all want to go to the Southwestern College music recital this week? I know Todd Gashetta will actually put specific dates that he'll take his class to here on campus or organize field trips. Field trips, that if you go to the San Diego Symphony, they cost money. So there always has to be that kind of decision in terms of how you're going to approach going to that required concert. We have a recital series on campus. Sometimes those recitals are perfect for our classes, and sometimes they don't quite line up with what we need the students to see. So it just kind of depends semester to semester. This semester was one where we didn't really have a whole lot of classical concerts during the time when it would be most appropriate for our students to go. We had something the second week of classes, but the students are still trying to figure out, what's going on, what's up, what's down, and to say, okay, now look up your assignment and let's go to a concert. I just made it an extra credit. If you want to come to the recital, I'll be there. I can introduce myself. It would be cool. Have a group hug. And so some students had come to that. So that was pretty cool. But then as the semester progressed, I realized that there wasn't a whole lot on campus that I could recommend the students attend. So then I was getting questions, where should we go? What should we do? And a lot of times I'll send my students to Balboa Park. They have free concerts on Sunday afternoons at 2 o'clock. But again, they're not really the best. I want them to go to something great. So let me actually do my screen sharing now, and let me walk you through a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to do my desktop. Get rid of Tracy. Bye. All right. And let me pull up my PowerPoint. All right, you can't do that online. So here we go. Okay, so students have to attend actually 2 classical concerts. And so normally I'll send them to a music recital series if we have them here available. I play in the La Jolla Symphony, so sometimes I'll say, hey, if you want to come hear me play, you can come to the free Friday night dress rehearsal. It's up at UCSD, so sometimes I'll get 2 or 3 people who will want to venture out. And then Balboa Park, that's the one I was just telling you about, that's free on Sundays. But as we were progressing in the semester, I got this itch. I'm like, what if we just try to go to a symphony concert together? So San Diego Symphony, they have student tickets that are pretty reasonable, but it's just a really great quality. And it's the kind of performance I want the students to go to because it's going to be playing the kind of music that we're studying. And they get to see the fancy theater. So here was one of my earlier messages when I was thinking about this. Hey, this is a screenshot from my Canvas. So your first concert essay is due after spring break. Have you picked out a concert to attend? It needs to be something that directly relates to this class. I believe you can get $5 tickets if you have a student ID from the San Diego Symphony. Look at their calendar and call their box office if you're interested. So I put that out there, and a couple of students were like, yeah, I want to go, but it wasn't overwhelming. And it's kind of like sometimes you just need to decide, I'm just going to do this. And I invited my mom. Mom, you want to go to a concert with me? And she said, sure. So I figured, well, at least that way I have somebody to go with, right? And then I thought, well, let me just, if I get 10 tickets, I can get the group rate. And then if my mom comes with me, and then if my students flake, maybe I can take my Girl Scout troop. I'm just trying to think through all of the possibilities here. So after I finally figured out, okay, I picked a concert date. Mom, let's go April 15th. And she's like, okay, great, I'm in. So here's an announcement a couple weeks later. I went ahead and changed, here we go, second paragraph. I'm going to choose to purchase group tickets for San Diego Symphony performance on Sunday, April 15th, 2 p.m. So I just made that decision. This is a concert I want to go to. And they're $5 for you and your student friends. I've gotten a couple RSVPs already, perfect timing for the assignment and so on. And they were just playing one piece at this concert, which is unusual. The first half of the concert is actually designed to give you background. And the symphony doesn't normally do that. It'll usually be a traditional 2-hour program, first half, second half. But this one, the first half was basically giving you the backstory of the actual piece that was being performed in the second half. So I'm like, this is perfect for my students. And so that's kind of one reason why I picked this particular one. And also my own schedule too. So anyway, it was featuring Mozart's Piano Concerto, which is one of the last compositions he wrote before he passed. And so there's a lot of things going on in his life. So I throw that out there, and then I get a few more responses. Okay, so this is how things started to then trickle down. So $5 tickets, I tell my students that, I promote, I call, it's actually $7. I'm like, well, what's $2? Is it a big deal? So since I only had like 12 students saying, yeah, I'll go, I'm like, all right, I'll just stick with the $5 thing. It's no big deal. I'm a good person. I'll cover those extra $2. So I make order number 1 happen, and I think I had maybe, I said 8 students, and then my mom and I, so we had our 10. And then after I made that order, because I charged it to my credit card, 10 more students said, I want to go. I'm like, oh, okay. So I call back again and the group sales, and then they gave me another 10 tickets. Again, I didn't really have 10 more. I had maybe 7 more, but I'm like, well, I'll get a few more because this reordering thing is a real hassle. And then I get another 6 students say, I want to go. And of course, because I want them all to go, I call again. You know, I'm starting to have a relationship with the ticket guy. And he's super nice. You know, he keeps putting us all in the same spot. And then I call again. And then 6 orders I finally made between the beginning of this project and then up to 3 days before. Now, that last order, number 6, the students, I couldn't have the tickets mailed to me because everything got mailed to my house except order number 6. And with that one, I had 2 students that each wanted 2 tickets. So the San Diego Symphony was really nice about just leaving them in will call under their names. So they had to pick them up. Okay, so it ended up being a total of 44 tickets, which is great. I mean, they were my students, their friends, significant others. One woman brought her daughter. Somebody brought their dad. I brought my mom. You know, it was just a real fun mix of people. But then, of course, with 44 tickets, you're like, my bad. So a little more generous contribution on my end, $88 for the 44 tickets. But you know what? It was an experiment. I'll do anything once. It's for the good of the people. All right. So then how are they going to get their tickets from me, right? The other 40 students. And how am I going to get their money? These are things I didn't really think through. So I needed those $5, right, to cover at least most of the expense. So I posted an announcement. Okay, I have tickets for you who requested them for the performance, and pick them up during the following times. So then, of course, I have to add, I have no idea these students, how many of them are on campus, how many of them are working all day, have childcare issues. So I'm just throwing these darts out there. Like, I'll say this is when I'm in my office. If you can come, great. And then as the week went on, you know, I saw my stack get smaller and smaller, but I still had quite a few left. And so they start emailing me, and their, you know, inbox Canvas communication is great. And then I think I finally had maybe at the end 10 students that couldn't pick them up until Friday, which I wasn't going to be here for something else. So I have our lovely administrative secretaries here at the School of Arts, Communication, and Social Sciences kept them for me in an envelope with little Post-it notes on them saying $5. And because some people brought a friend, so it was $10. And I had them all paper clipped together so that they could do those final few tickets. And then I asked them at the end of the day if they had anything left, because who knows, to put them in my office, because I don't have the ability to go into the School of Arts and Social Sciences main office over the weekend, but I can break into my own. So there were 2 tickets that remained. So, I mean, out of 40, that's pretty good, right? And everybody brought their $5. And so that was fine. I got to meet the students, shake some hands, you know, get some personalities out. So it was really cool. So I'm trying to think leading up to the event. Oh, and then I didn't want to give them too much at once. So then by the time everybody had their tickets and I made arrangements for those last 2 students, I sent out an email with the parking information. So San Diego Symphony has a great website that shows you the closest lot is $20, and then you can go 2 blocks away for $6 and kind of give them all that information. The tickets themselves had a stamp on them that said there was a pre-concert lecture at 45 minutes before the concert started. Normally I tell my students it's a great thing to go to. I wasn't pitching it on this one because the whole first half of the concert was supposed to be gearing them up for the second half. But then I saw that on the ticket. I'm like, well, maybe it's something really cool. So then I start promoting, you know, be there at 1:15, you'll get the pre-concert lecture. They're always great. And so I get that word out, I get the parking out, and then I just keep my fingers crossed when I, attend the concert on Sunday. The seats will be full around me and there'll be bodies in them, and we can enjoy the experience together. I also have to add for my students that they do need to stay for the whole concert. A lot of them want to know exactly what time it ends, and I don't know. I can just kind of guess. It'll be a couple hours, so I have to get that out there too. Okay, so the fun part is when we got to the concert, these are our seats. We call them the nosebleed seats. It's because there's the ceiling up here, right? And there we all are. So that's my mom over there, the blonde hair, and that's my group. And I'm stepping down, taking the picture from the front of the balcony. So there's a whole bunch of seats that are below. And guess what? There was no pre-concert talk. I got there with my bells and whistles on. I'm like, I'm here. I'm going to hear the pre-concert talk. Oh, they're not doing that today, honey, because the concert is actually including it. I'm like, well, that's what I thought, but the ticket says 1:15. And she's like, oh, no. So then that gave us extra time to kind of hang out, look at each other, take in the ambiance. I encourage my students to take pictures, walk around. The architecture is beautiful in there. For a lot of them, this is a very new thing. They haven't seen the inside of a classical symphony hall before, so it's very ornate. And so I think that was good to have some extra time. And of course, some students didn't show up to the very end before it started. This is the view of the stage. So again, this is a different kind of concert. There were speakers. So there's a guy here. They kind of made it like a TED Talk, I guess. And then the conductor comes out from these doors and stands right here. And he's also the pianist. You can see there's 2 pianos here. The one in front is what is similar to what Mozart would have played at his time. And then this one is more what we play at our time. And then, they can see all the instruments. And we talked about that when we were waiting for the concert to start, what instruments were here in the orchestra, so that they knew the difference between the violas and the violins, which look pretty similar. This is a good picture of the ceiling that one of my students took. It's very beautiful. And here's the concert. So it's called Beyond the Score, Mozart's Piano Concerto number 27, Elusive Simplicity. So this is great, and I had to point this out to the students. At the beginning of the program, they mentioned that this came from a Chicago Symphony Orchestra series. And so I had to explain to my students that this is basically kind of like a packaged program that they bought through another symphony orchestra that worked on doing this kind of outreach to engage audiences. And so the San Diego Symphony is just replicating whatever was done for the Chicago Symphony. Because sometimes students get confused, like, did I hear the Chicago Symphony? Like, no, this is still the San Diego Symphony. What they were doing is just, they purchased, I'm sure, this package deal with the narrator. And just to give you a little insight on the concert, it was actually really cool because the piece that was featured in the second half was the piano concerto. But what they did in the first half is they talked about all of his influences. So they had a mime, on stage acting some things out, because during that time, there's a lot of emphasis in having la commedia dell'arte, just the funny art, the routines, just the more casual entertainments. They had a lot of kind of slapstick music humor that was going on in the streets, the musical theater for the common folk. And I think towards the end of his career, Mozart was kind of grabbing at straws, busy guy, and he's trying to figure out how to make this piano concerto work. And so a lot of the things that he wrote for other pieces kind of slipped into the piano concerto. And so the first half of the concert was talking about those other pieces. Like there's a little bit of an opera, and he used that melody as a piano melody in the concerto. And then some of the humor in the piano concerto, like there'll be something kind of slow and pretty, and then suddenly you hear this like bing, bing, bing in the strings. And the first half of the concert talked about how that's supposed to be mimicking laughter, because that particular melody was used in another one of his pieces where there is opera and there's humor and there was drama. So again, trying to get the students to, make that connection of the piano concerto just wasn't the piano concerto. It was really a culmination of so many other things going on in Mozart's life. So there are my students. This is about 10 minutes before the show. So you see I got a few empty seats. But they all were full by the time we started. I actually have a couple of my traditional students that I see. These 4 students here in my theory class, they actually wanted to come too when they heard about it. And it was also funny, the woman I sat next to, I didn't recognize her. And I said, "Oh, are you in my class?" And she just shook her head like this. So I never quite figured out who that was, if she was just nervous, or it was a very strange moment that I wish I kept track of who I assigned which tickets to. Because, this is our general group, but, I think he's part of our group. But I'm not actually sure if these people are. I think they may have been somebody else's group. So, they weren't exactly all of us, because remember, I had to keep calling back to order more and more tickets. So it wasn't, as tidy as it would have been had I maybe assigned seats. But at that point, you got to pick and choose your battles. And I didn't have the time to mark down P27 and P29 were these students. Maybe if I did them all in one order, maybe I could have been a little bit more organized and tactical about where I put people. But this is just, as I kept just doing those reorders, it was a little different. And this is actually a screenshot of one of the students' reports. So, I learned a lot from doing this, and I would definitely do some things differently the next time. I was, everybody likes to be appreciated. I was kind of hoping, "Oh, thank you, Dr. McGregor. This is such an amazing experience. My life is forever changed because of it." I didn't get a whole lot of that for this one. And that's fine. It was first time for me too, in terms of trying to choreograph everything. It was a little weird that my mom was there, because I'm like, do I talk to my mom? Do I talk to my students? And I had a really nice, delightful conversation with the student that was right next to me. But everything else is kind of awkward because, you got to turn around and lean over. And the seats are tight, so turning is a little strange. So, I think that, again, I probably could have prepped them a little bit better. I could have thought through it a little bit more myself in terms of how to have more conversations with them. We had some chit chat, but afterwards I felt a little funny about it. I wish we had more group hug. Maybe I should have forced them to introduce them to the person next to them, because a lot of them did come just with themselves. So they may or may not have known the person around them. I do teach 2 online classes. So even I may have had people from 2 different sections sitting next to each other, because I didn't organize that. So anyway, it was just kind of nice reading what the students had to say. And that is all I have. Ta-da!
I want to take your class.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not kidding.
All right. So are there any questions? Do I unshare, or do I stay live here for a little bit, Tracy?
Yeah,
what do you
go ahead and
suggest?
stop sharing, and
Okay.
that way we can go back to the Brady Bunch.
Oh,
Do you see it up there at the very top?
I see pause. There we go. Stop share.
You got it. Perfect. So we have a couple of question opportunities. One is right now in between our 2 pieces, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions at the very end as well.
Just a quick comment. You're very funny. You've had me laughing for a half hour. That was a great retelling of that story. We all understand,
Yeah.
That was a great one. So thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I could provide some comic relief at this time of the semester when we all need it the most, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I love the humor, and also, just to know that this is all going to be recorded, so all that money that you spend, just watch out.
Oh, right. Yeah,
if anybody would like to send donations.
right.
Yeah.
And actually the student I sat next to, he said, "I saw that we actually were supposed to pay $7. He paid attention to the ticket, and he said, "Do we owe you more money?" And I said, "Well, it was $2 more, but I'm not going to shake anybody down for $2. And he's like, "No, you should." And he was really trying to get me to do that. But I'm like, it felt weird, so we'll just, it is what it is.
We have something in the chat from Michelle, who says that she's doing a live expedition this summer for her College for Kids course and physical geography. She says we'll be talking with scientists on board a research vessel while they deploy a submersible to the bottom of the ocean floor.
Can I come too? This is awesome.
Wow. Yeah, so that's a whole different kind of field trip that we hadn't even thought about.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And we know with tools like Zoom, it's easier and easier to plug into people who are in amazing places and kind of take a virtual field trip too. Okay, so let's go on to our part 2 of You Can't Do That Online. So we've been talking about the logistics of doing a field trip with, I didn't even realize it was 2 classes, 2 online groups. So now I'm even more impressed with that. But we also are going to talk about group activities in a different way. So we're going to turn things over to Bill Marston from Family Studies, and he's going to tell us about some group activities that he has done in his course. Bill, take it away.
Oh, that's a hard act to follow, Tracy. She was good. She was funny. And they were all saying, do we have to make people laugh too? I'm Bill Marston. I'm from Family Studies. I teach a lot of child development classes. And these are 3 of my former students who took part in this assignment that I'm going to talk about today. It's a group assignment on creating group websites. And I'm going to walk you through it. So I'm going to share my screen with you. They all loved the assignment, right?
Yes.
Oh, see? Okay. Here we go. I made a little shell with the website assignment. And of course, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to announce it in your syllabus. And you're going to announce it as a group project. And you're going to get a lot of emails saying, ugh. What do you mean group project? I never did a group project online. And so you're going to get a lot of groans at first, but then you set up the guidelines and you show them. And this is for the CD 135 class, which is family development. And I go through that every member of the class is going to be a part of a group and be a part of the assignment, the final project for that class, which is creating a website. And I list topics that they can choose from, and hopefully they have a passion for one of these topics. At least if they don't, they can email me and suggest another topic and I'll put it up. But I have things like gender equality, child abuse and neglect, relationship violence, aging, divorce and its implications for children, divorce, other divorce topics, enhancing sexuality and relationships, LGBTQ information, those types of things that relate to the family, and let them choose a topic as a group. In the other class, CD 284, with CD 135, I've already made the groups. I do it randomly in people. Has everybody explored the people module or the people setup area where you can set up groups? And you can set your groups up manually, or you can have Canvas do it for you. And for CD 135, I just let Canvas do it for me, and then I put the assignment out. But for CD 284, it's a different thing because I want the students to become advocates for their causes. I teach a lot about advocacy in that class. So for the CD 284, which is child, family, and community, I'm trying to teach them to be advocates for their causes. And again, I make suggestions of different sites. But with that project, that's a huge project. Not only do they do the website as a final part of their assignment, they also have to do a 3-part explanation of how they're advocating for the cause that they've chosen and what their group is doing to advocate for that cause. And some of them do letter writing campaigns, some of them do blogs, some of them do other things that go along with the topic they've chosen for their website. And then I have a rubric for a peer review at the end. What they do is they submit their links Is it my phone? They submit their URLs in a discussion. Only one person from each group puts their URL on the discussion board, and then everybody goes to those sites and peer reviews the site. And everybody has to peer review in the class. And there's a rubric I created that they can go by and give points for when they do their peer review. And of course, I also give them places where they can go for free website builders and examples of previous websites. And I wanted to go to at least one of them here. I think this was Crystal's website, Together Against Violence, which is a relationship violence website. And it's a beautiful site. She has a little video here. This video tells the story of a woman in a toxic and abusive relationship. And then tell you about an event. This was November 25th, International Day to End Violence Against Women. But there are other things on this site. Take action. And each group member contributes to the site. It's just not one person. Although one person may wind up putting it all together, but that was Crystal. Also, there's some resources. If someone is having issues with domestic violence, Spanish-speaking agencies, military agencies, did a nice job on the resources here. And here's our own Jeffrey Buchholz. They put videos of him and his talks that he's given here at Southwestern College. And there's Keira Knightley with an advertisement. And there's a PSA from the Super Bowl of 2015. And of course, some visuals here. That's just one of the sites. Which one was yours?
Child abuse and neglect.
This one? Mm-hmm. Awareness of child abuse and neglect. See what a beautiful job they do? And these are all students that have put it together. Here's a little video here. Ways of prevention. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea. And here's one for, it's a little bit different. It's on getting quality childcare for children. Any others? Oh, and here's one on children and divorce, on helping children cope with divorce. And these are all just helpful sites and helpful in advocating for the cause that they have chosen as a group. I'm going to let my students speak as how they felt about the assignment. So, Crystal, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Crystal. I actually really enjoyed doing the website, and me personally, in my free time, I actually like editing videos and photos and all that stuff. So, like, creating a website was actually it was a challenge, but it was also really fun at the same time. Doing the research and being passionate about the topic and really finding out all the resources that we have in our own city. So that's why, like, when I put the site together, I thought it would be nice to just put everything, even if it's, for military families, children, and, just the Spanish speaking and stuff like that. So, yeah.
You reminded me of a form that I left out. One of the forms that I use also with this project is there's 2 group meeting evaluation forms, and that's to prevent somebody from doing all the work. The groups are supposed to rate themselves on how they're progressing with the project and what they're contributing to the project, so that I know that everybody's involved and not just one person's involved. Okay, and do you want to go ahead? You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joanna. I took his CD 135 class with family development, and the website was a little difficult to work with because a lot of people wanted to work on it at the same time, and we had to make sure whatever we did in the website that it was saved so the next person can work on it, because if you don't save it, then you have to do it again. And then that was like the difficult part. And also, since it was an online class, there was difficulty like talking to a lot of people. So we always made sure, like every day we made sure, like we made a checklist for each other, and like, did you do this today? Did you do this today? And then even if they didn't do it that day, we wanted to make sure we had like an overall idea of what we wanted to be by the end of the week. So there wasn't like a technical deadline. And it was really helpful when you added the weekly or the monthly like check-ins for
the reports.
The reports. Those were really helpful. And I just really enjoyed being able to talk to new people, even though it was an online class, and getting to know them, and then having this big project where we learned more resources for children and puppies.
Incidentally, some people used Zoom to meet. Some people even used Facebook, the Facebook chat. Is that what you used? Google Hangouts, and there were some other things. Oh, WhatsApp.
Yeah, we use that one.
Yeah.
For our website creators here, I noticed that you've left the website up. So are you planning to keep it up so that other people can learn from it, even though your class is done?
Yeah.
Yes.
I took his course almost a year ago, and it's still up there, I believe.
Yeah.
I actually share a link to my website every year. So like the date where it has the, support and all that. So I use on my Facebook, I share it. And then since I also run the social media for the dance department here on campus, I share the link there as well, like every semester, just to spread awareness and everything like that.
If I may offer a quick, if Bill or one of you could possibly shoot an email to everyone, or to teachers, or to just global, and tell us about these things. If it weren't for this class, I would not have known it. But appreciate your work, and I really am very impressed. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Sweet, so sweet.
Yeah, I too love that real world focus on advocacy, because I mean these websites are still up and people are really continuing to benefit from them, not just in a classroom but in real life.
Absolutely. Great job.
Well, thank you.
Does anyone have any logistics questions? We saw a little bit about how Bill set this up in terms of groups and peer review. Any of those sorts of questions as you're thinking about how you might implement this sort of project?
I'm gonna have to say I've had one objection to peer review in the 3 years I've been doing this, and that was one of my Grossmont College students. And she said, I didn't enroll in this class to be a website evaluator. So I had to convince her that we were talking about the information and not just reviewing a website, but we were reviewing the information that's being given. And so she kind of caught on and went ahead and did it after all. But at first she objected quite loudly too.
And we have a comment in the chat about how well designed this seems to be, with the idea of having the check-ins and the weekly updates. So for those of you creating the website, I'm going to guess that helped you really stay on top of things.
Yeah.
Especially since it was a group project, everyone was accountable for it. And then if you didn't do your part, you would get reviewed on like what you didn't do. And even though we asked them, like, we needed this, but you still didn't speak to us, or like we could have accommodated, but there was like no communication. Other than that, was pretty good.
Did it ever get nasty between students then? I mean, do you feel like that because you're having to call each other out? Did it ever get awkward for you guys?
It was hard. Like, I know a lot of people in general, everyone's like, no, like I do my part and everything. It's just, I guess, since you're working in a group, you have to account for everyone in that group and what they're going through and whatever they're going through in life. And it's just, there's like times where you butt heads, but it's like at the end you were going to figure out like what we're going to do in that group. But it was just communication wise, it was difficult.
Yeah, and for my group, one of the members, she recently was pregnant, so she had to go to those kind of appointments, and then another lady, she had to drive all the way from Mexico, so we had to juggle all of our schedules just to meet and figure out who's going to do what and make sure we turn it in on time.
So are your meetings like at crazy times then, like at 9 p.m. where you're trying to chat, or how did that work out?
They were really random, like all over the place. Like, okay, let's meet here, let's go to Panera. And it ended up working out in the end, which was really good. So.
And about how many people were in each group?
Like 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I don't have groups more than 5 and not less than 3.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember with my group, we started off at 5. But then towards the end of the semester, when the assignment was due, it was only 3 of us. Yeah. So
I'm guessing that's pretty common.
That's pretty common.
Yeah.
You know, one thing we emphasized in child development and in the family studies is that you're going to work together with people that you don't know as a staff later, especially like most of our students become preschool teachers or early childhood educators. And I tell them, you know what, you're going to work with a staff that you don't pick. And you have to learn how to work together with other people. That's life. That's the way it is. I know, because I did that job for several years. I was a Head Start director for many years, and I know how it goes.
Yeah, I have that issue too, even with my Girl Scouts. Sometimes they don't want to work together. And I'm like, no, you have to, because this is what life is. You know, you will have to eventually work with other people. And I know you prefer to just control your own little thing, but you need to connect with others because that's what's going to get you through this.
That's real life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great that you really support them through this process, doing it online. I think it's fantastic.
Yep. And also because increasingly teamwork is done in a mix of face-to-face and online. There are so many organizations that have people spread out all over the country or the world, and being able to make those deadlines and work together in a variety of different platforms is really a great skill to have.
And it's so much better than group texting, right? Because then you can have that moment where you can all look at each other and be like, okay, you know, where are we at and how are we going to do this and how are we going to collaborate, rather than just the bickeringness of texting sometimes. You know, I think that there's so much that needs to be said for actual, you know, group synchronous face-to-face kind of work, right? It changes the dynamic of everything, because then you're people, right? Rather than just looking at angry words.
Okay, believe it or not, I think that was the fastest hour ever, and we're almost at the end of it. So if you have any other lingering questions or ideas that you want to share, or anything else that we want to cover before we officially run out of time, now would be that time.
I would want to say,
Thank you very much to Cynthia and Bill and to our student group for such an inspirational hour. I love this session.